Hey, this is Daniel from Adorama. I'm here in my studio and we're setting up a really elaborate lighting setup for our video we're going to put out next week, so stay tuned for that one. But while we're setting this up, one tool that I used that made this thing go much, much faster is a light meter. And I get a lot of questions about how to use a light meter, so I'm just going to run through some of the basics of it and when you'd use it and how you'd use it. So this is a Sekonic 758. It's kind of a standard light meter. It's got both a spot meter and an incident dome on it. So when you're using an incident meter, you're basically reading the light that's falling on a subject. So it's super useful for any kind of lighting stuff to keep things really simple, and there's basically two ways to use it. If you just want to get a really general reading, like you're standing outside and you want to get a reading, you can just kind of point it towards the camera, and that'll give you an overall, because this is shaped like a dome, so it's going to get, like, my face is rounded like this, it's going to give me an overall reading. It's not as precise, but it'll be probably good enough for most situations. But when you're using lighting, or you want to really be able to set it up more perfectly, you want to point the meter towards the light source. So in this case, I have, let's say, a beauty dish here. When I'm metering for this beauty dish, I want to point my meter from the subject's position at the light. This is going to give me a neutral reading from this light. It gives me how much light's coming from that light source falling on my subject. Okay, that's going to give me a base where I can start from, of course, then you do some test shots to see where you want to be from there. So the other thing about some light meters, this one in particular, is you can lower the dome in. What this is useful for is if you're in a situation where there's a lot of lights around and you don't want one light, let's say, to affect the other one. Let's say I have these two lights here, if I was firing them both at the same time, and I went like this with the dome out, you're still gonna get some of this light hitting it. This way you won't. So it's really reading each light independently. So when you're doing ratios, let's say, you can read this light, then you can read this light, and then set them up appropriately. So that's when you'd use that. So we run through some of the functions of this. So the meter itself has several modes. This first one here is ambient, so it's going to read the light in the room. I use this today basically to get a reading in the room because I want to make sure that at my shutter speed of 125, ISO 100, that none of the light from the room that you're seeing me lit with right now is going to affect my shot. Because I'm using flash photography, I want to make sure that my flash is brighter than the room. This is less than f1, so none of the light in this space is going to affect my shot at all today because I'm going to shoot it at 5.6. This next one is non-corded flash. What this means is that when you press the button, it's now waiting for a flash to fire. When a flash fires, it will then give me a reading. So let me see if I can fire this flash. There we go. And that's a reading. This is corded flash. It's a little lightning bolt with a C. That's if you're going to plug a flash like with the sync cord into the actual meter. There's a little spot right here to plug it in if you want to do that. So you can, you don't have to keep pressing the button on your pocket wizard. You can just plug it right in. So this particular meter also has the ability to use as a spot meter. So when you turn this little controller here, you can now look through the meter and read a spot on the wall or in the sky or whatever to set your reading. This could be useful for, let's say, in an ambient mode. This is useful, let's say, if there's a window in the shot. I want to read the sky behind my subject and then set my exposure accordingly. I would use the spot meter. In this case here, the way I used it was I have a wall in the background, and one of the shots we're going to do is using a colored gel. So I want to make sure that the wall is a certain exposure to get the gel to look the way I want it to. So I'm going to use the spot meter standing at my camera position, shooting at the background, firing the flash to give me the exact reading I want for the background. So the other place that you'd use a spot meter is if you want to, let's say you're working with somebody that has like extreme contrast. Let's say a groom in a black tuxedo and a bride in a white dress. This is a classic thing. A spot meter is great for that because you can meter the dress and meter the tuxedo, and then you'll know your range. And based on your camera's dynamic range, you can set your exposure so that you get detail in both, or you sacrifice it where you know you want to sacrifice it. If you want to get a totally neutral reading using a spot meter, you would use something like this digital target here, which we've used before for white balance. This middle part here is the 18% gray that you can use for getting a basic exposure as well. So just as a note, the meter in your camera is a reflected meter like the spot meter. So if you don't have that function in your light meter here and you're only reading ambient light, you can use, of course, your camera's meter to do the same thing. But the camera can't read studio flash, so that's the advantage here. So stay tuned next week when you're going to see how we're going to put all these lights into use, creating 3 portraits really quickly. I hope you learned something about light meters today, and if you have any other questions, please post them below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time on set.